Well, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Construction Corner. Today we're joined by Chris Hodson from the Brokerage out of Orange County, and they are a specialty construction insurance brokerage. And we have a few questions aligned to, provide some feedback and shed some more light onto an issue that maybe some of you don't know, which is insurance. So Chris, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, Tyler. Thanks.
No problem. I think a great way to start this would be just give a quick introduction of yourself, how long you've been in insurance, and then also how long you've been working, alongside contractors.
Sure. No, I've been an insurance geek here coming on 32 years, I think, and been working with contractors better part of 20 plus years. I started out in claims for Liberty Mutual many moons ago, and so it kind of gave me a good insight into what a lot of our clients go through on a day in, day out basis.
Right. And then is there anything specific you liked about the construction industry when you were starting out? Was it the people?
Oh, without question. I think, I feel like contractors are the backbone of our communities here. It's exciting to see things being built and things being redone, and obviously construction's been booming for several years, and so it's always neat to be involved and to be able to go by a stadium or something and say, oh, one of our clients worked on that or that sort of thing. It kind of brings it home.
Built from the ground up.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So right now in the marketplace, what would you say the current state of it is right now for the construction industry?
Construction industry and in reference to commercial insurance.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd say the market in general is still pretty soft. It means there's lots of carriers that are chasing good deals. By good deals, I mean those contractors who are minding the farm and are not having horrific losses.
Right.
But workers' compensation is probably the most pain that most contractors are feeling, with the exception of health insurance. But the workers' comp market, again, is relatively soft. And so that means that for those contractors, again, having good experience, they're able to get some pretty good rates. General liability, same sort of thing, relatively soft. Commercial auto is another matter. I'm certain most businesses here in California have started to experience some upward pressure on auto rates. It's getting really ugly, and that's also sort of spilling over into umbrella excess liability. Auto is a major driver of umbrella excess premiums, and so there's a lot of upward pressure in that area and diminished capacity because a lot of those markets that were focusing on umbrella either don't want to write those lines anymore or want to write it at higher levels. Don't want to do the first 5 or 10 million limits that a lot of contractors are buying.
Okay. And so with the 2020 year approaching, and I'm sure there's renewals being wrapped up right now, what can a contractor really expect for this next year's renewal?
Yeah, great question. I think that again, if they've had fairly good losses, and by fairly good losses, a contractor could sort of get a 30,000 foot perspective, kind of total up the premiums that they've paid the last 5 years compared to the losses that they've incurred, and that would give them a real rough estimation of their loss ratio, which is what an underwriter uses.
Right.
And if it looks like the insurance companies are making money and they think that their experience modification is going to be dropping, which we can talk about, the broker should be forecasting for them. But if all those things are coming in line, they should expect to have probably a reduced cost for their workers' compensation rates next year. Continuation of the same issues with auto, umbrella excess liability, also property. If a lot of contractors don't have large property schedules, they may just have large equipment schedules. Those rates are fairly static, although a lot of contractors are experiencing high levels of theft. And it's becoming more and more a problem, so that can sort of drive some rate also. Okay.
Now, with these rate changes, is this something that gets dropped on at the end of the year when the renewal comes? Or I know you said if they were to look at it at a 30,000 foot perspective, but is the broker also should be there along the way, maybe saying, hey, this could affect it, this might not affect it, or is it just at the end of the year it's a bombshell?
Without question. We encourage all prospective companies that we sit down with to get some early feedback from their broker of what their broker expects for that to be able to put on the table with an eye towards the renewal.
Right.
The broker should have a pretty good sense of the claims that the contractor has incurred and the impact of that on the marketplace and
right.
for their renewal pricing.
Okay. So what potential questions could a contractor ask a potential broker, whether they're bringing on a new broker, switching, or this is their first time, dealing with insurance? What questions would they ask to be able to see if that broker is really competent and has expertise in the construction industry?
I think, once you get to know someone, you start having a conversation with them, you find out, how long they've been doing what they're doing, and then the broker should start name dropping maybe, perhaps. Or, better yet, the contractor should ask the broker for a list of clients. And very likely they should be, companies that you have familiarity with.
Right.
And then they should give them a call and find out how well has this broker done on their behalf.
Okay.
That'd be a good insight.
Okay. And then is there any maybe details the contractor could look for without maybe asking? Is there, does everyone have access to every market? Do some have, limited access, special access? Is there other ways to find that out?
Right. And that's a great question. I think that's the largest differentiator between a broker who's a generalist and someone who has a specialty in construction.
Right.
Because the insurance markets, the carriers that work in the construction space have an expectation of a certain level of business. And those brokers who are working day in and day out in that space is able to feed those carriers.
Okay.
And more often than not, a specialty construction insurance company has the right policy forms and the flexible rating structures, and frankly, oftentimes more competitive rates.
In your opinion, what should contractors consider when seeking competitive insurance bids?
I think the most important thing is the contractor should control the process. And by controlling the process, I mean they should assign markets. Now, oftentimes in a competitive bid process, there may be multiple brokers that get involved. Well, if you've got multiple brokers sending submissions to multiple carriers, the thing gets really distorted.
Okay.
By having the contractor control the process, they're basically assigning carriers based on influence that a broker has exhibited with a particular carrier instead of just mere access. You don't want brokers shotgun blasting the marketplace,
right.
because no broker can effectively market or tell the contractor's story to all these different underwriters. It's a personal process, and those underwriters need to be enrolled.
Right. And so I kind of like what you said about influence and access. Can you kind of maybe touch on that a little more for those who don't maybe understand the difference of?
Sure. So insurance companies have direct appointments with certain brokers, and then there's also another realm of the marketplace, which is excess surplus lines and wholesale brokers.
Okay.
That can go to particular carriers. So most carriers can be reached through either direct or the wholesale placement, but the best advocacy is tied to personal relationships.
Right.
And how can I secure accommodations from this particular carrier on behalf of my client on a rather routine basis? And I think that's the core definition of influence.
Right.
So when I mentioned the shotgun blast and how that's not advantageous, one of the major things that happens is companies and contractors in particular, they have a brand,
right.
and that brand is something that has to be fiercely defended. it's important that an underwriter, gets beyond just the numbers on a piece of paper or an application. They need to understand what this contractor does, what makes them exceptional, how do they take care of their employees, what are they doing in the field to make certain that they're not having accidents, these sorts of things. And if an underwriter receives multiple submissions from multiple brokers, there's no way that narrative, that brand can be effectively communicated. And unfortunately, the end result will be the underwriter may not give them their best look because they feel like this thing's all over the street.
Okay. What should a broker be doing to help a company out and help them reduce their workers' compensation claims?
Well, a broker should, at a minimum, be providing loss control or loss prevention services, helping them with job walks, making sure that the work comp carrier is providing loss control services. But it's construction,
right.
and it's heavy work. Boots are on the ground. You can't control all the variables. And we know contractors want to do pre-job planning and doing everything they can to make sure their jobs run smoothly and their people stay safe. But accidents happen because we're humans. So it's important that a contractor will take that claim seriously, will do everything they can to investigate promptly, to interview all the other employees around to see what happened and what can be done to prevent that from happening again. A risk consultant that I've known for years and years has a program that he likes to call Stand and Deliver. And it's a process where during the regular safety meetings, they will call up those individuals, either lead guys, foreman, whomever, involved in a recent incident or even near miss. And they share the experience with the group, and then the group, their peers, will ask questions and talk about what can be done to prevent that from happening in the future. That's a proactive stance that contractors should take.
Right. And it kind of goes back to your point earlier of not showing up at the end of the year, right? You're really advocating to be there through the whole process. And you're saying even go, spend the time with the contractor, whether it's on jobs, popping into the office, just to make sure everything's flowing correctly.
Without question. And that information needs to be, constantly calibrated.
Right.
And an employee gets injured. And it's really critical that that contractor has a contact in their office that is constantly in touch with that injured employee. Oftentimes, when a claim gets litigated or an attorney gets involved, two things will happen. The claim will be open longer and it'll end up costing more. When at the end of the day, it doesn't have to go that way.
Right.
So if the office is in constant contact with that injured employee, making certain that they're comfortable with what the doctor is saying, that they don't have questions about their disability checks, that they've got good communication with the adjuster, and that the company lets this individual know they want him or her back. They're looking forward to bringing him back. There's an open dialogue. And that can alleviate a lot of the concerns that injured employees may have. That, it's that concern, it's that hook that applicant attorneys are very good at exploiting and making it seem like, oh, you're not suing the company, you're suing the insurance company, so don't worry about it. No, the money comes out of the contractor's pocket at the end of the day.
Right. We all know, contractors are very tight with money and want to be able to spend it the correct way, and at times maybe don't purchase some coverages they think are necessary or is leaving them as exposed as possible. In your opinion, what is one or two of those coverages that you think is mandatory in 2019 and going into 2020 that they purchase?
It's tough to say something is mandatory, because risk management and the concept of buying insurance is merely deciding how much risk do I want to assume on my own versus how much do I want to transfer to an insurance company. So, like you said, budgetary constraints impact all businesses, but contractors especially, because they have this sliding expenses and things come out of left field. And so we understand the challenges, the financial challenges that contractors have. But to that point, we're seeing a lot of risk. We're seeing a lot of claims activity in cybersecurity.
Right.
And a lot of contractors think, oh, well, we're not dealing with money, we're not handling personal information, so everyone knows about the Target breach, but we're not processing credit cards, and so we don't have to worry about that. In reality, they do, and I've had a number of contracting clients who have gotten hit by cyber incidents.
Okay.
There's something called social engineering, and under a normal crime policy, there's an exclusion. In other words, it's not covered if you willingly give up something. I had a client who was doing work with a particular university, and they were ordering a lot of equipment. My client forwarded some equipment that reportedly was ordered and then expected to get paid, but the university said that wasn't us. You had sent information because their system had been compromised.
Okay.
So it's one example. To that point, whether a contractor ends up buying cyber coverage or not, we encourage them before any payment is made, before any property, any equipment is shipped, to pick up the phone and verify with their normal customer contact or vendor any changes in banking information or any changing of location of delivery, that sort of thing. You can't rely on the computer anymore.
Right. So you're taking the extra step to ensure.
It is an extra step. Yeah.
Okay.
But cyber is still relatively inexpensive from a coverage line. So there is risk out there.
Okay. So you're saying the severity of cyber is so much greater than the minimal cost it takes to purchase?
Very likely.
Okay.
Very likely.
Well, again, thank you to everyone who tuned in, either watched or listened. It was great to hear from Chris. He clearly is an expert and gave a lot of great advice on a topic I'm sure a lot of us aren't very well versed in. So thank you, Chris. And if you have any final thoughts or want to tell people where they can get more information or get in contact with you, I'd be happy to share it.
Fantastic. Tyler, thanks for taking the time. I enjoyed it. If you have any questions or want us to weigh in on anything, feel free to reach out to us. Our website is thebrokerage.ins.com, or catch us on LinkedIn, either my page or the company page.
Cool.